Hello, welcome back to the Red Devils Den podcast. We got plenty of news and football to talk about. Manchester United 6, Roma 2. That was absolutely fantastic in a European semi final. We've got the Liverpool preview coming up as well. So, first of all, Dan, what were your thoughts on that game? It was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it?
It was, mate, and it was very much indicative of how we've been under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think we've seen a lot of the good side of Manchester United last night, in the second half, and you also saw a lot of the bad side as well. Obviously, we started really well. We was pressing them high. Bruno got his goal, and then unfortunately they got the penalty. And it seemed like after that, when they got the penalty back, it sort of shocked us a bit. I felt personally anyway. Of course, it was a bad decision. The boys probably felt a bit like they've been a bit shafted, like they have been in recent weeks, unfortunately. But when they got the second goal, it was like heads dropped a lot, and I think that we just needed half time. After that second goal, we had no rhythm. Heads had really dropped. There was no confidence in the play. We were losing the ball. And Bruno wasn't playing very well at all. He was losing the ball a lot. I mean, I know he's not the only, he wasn't the only one, but he's just the first one that comes to mind. And then obviously the hairdryers have been out at half time, and you saw the best side of Manchester United in the second half. Dynamic attacking, free flowing football. It was just fantastic to see, and it was so good because at half time, I was saying on Twitter, and I'll hold my hands up, I thought it was going to stay 2-1. Because I thought Roma, they've done exactly what they've come to do. They've scored their 2 away goals. They're ahead. I thought that was it. They're going to shut up shop. They're going to play, ultra defensive. And, I was sort of preparing myself for the worst, to be honest, and just sort of get through this one, go into Rome and hope we get a couple of goals. But no, it was fantastic. Whatever Solskjaer did at half time, it worked the magic. And we scored brilliant goals. Edinson, Cavani, Bruno, and Pogba. 10 out of 10, every single one of them, world class. We saw the best of them last night. And it's really nice because Bruno has been a bit off colour for the past couple of weeks. And you have sort of been concerned about him a bit with his tiredness because he has played a lot of games. Then again, so has everyone. But no, we saw the best of Bruno Fernandes last night, and it was just so good to see. So I'm more than happy. And we woke up this morning feeling fine.
Definitely. Vin, did you have similar thoughts to Dan? Because I'm pretty sure we all agree that it was really good overall.
Yeah, it was a fantastic performance. I mean, the first half wasn't as bad as people were making it out on Twitter because it was a great opening goal, great link-up play between Pogba, Cavani, and then that really deft assist to Bruno. I think that was a great touch on him. Great finish from Bruno as well. We started well, but then if you think about it, it should have been 1-1 heading into halftime and not 2-1, really, because that is not a penalty in any day of the year. Because I, I don't know how else this puck was supposed to slide. I mean, people are saying, yeah, you can put your hands by your side and slide, but I mean, in that moment, it's a split-second decision. And, you know, I mean, for Pogba to think that, okay, I'm just going to put my hands on and I'm going to try and slide and take the ball away. I mean, let's be honest, it doesn't happen 9 out of 10 times. So it wasn't a penalty, but still they scored. And then the second goal which they scored, yes, that was the fault of our defenders and our midfield. I think it was Fred and Maguire and Lindelof who were sort of at fault, you could say, for just not being positionally aware, and they just sort of let one of their men run freely behind them. So it should have been 1-1 heading into the halftime. And obviously, Twitter goes on a meltdown, and you see all the trending already. Contrary to many people, I was a bit calm. I was absolutely calm. I knew we were going to come back because we know for a fact that Roma's defense hasn't been good this season. And we know that they can't keep up with the intensity with which they were playing in the first half. So I knew that and we've always been good in the second halves of games, mostly this season. And so we knew that given the quality that we have, we were always going to make a comeback. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, people just got to have some faith in the manager and the team and just stop overreacting like crazies, really. I mean, and because let's be honest, no one expected us to score 5 goals in the second half, did we? At most, we were expecting, okay, 2 goals, 3 goals, make it 3-2, and just head into Rome for the second leg. But yeah, we went on to score 5 goals. And from Cavani, Pogba, Bruno, brilliant performances. Greenwood comes on, gets a goal as well. And yeah, all in all, a fantastic night. And that's pretty much 1.5 foot into the finals.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Steve McManaman, Paul Scholes, Owen Hargreaves sort of getting put in their seat, because they were saying at half time, "Oh, bring Greenwood on, take Fred off or McTominay," and and I was just thinking, "No, keep them on, because we need them to, they McFred have been our best sort of pivot really in these sort of big games. They've been so reliable, and we need them especially to protect against the away goals as well." Um, and then Pogba in the second half, that he showed why he shouldn't really be playing in that pivot in these sort of games, because he created that goal from the left hand side. Um, the second half performance was absolutely fantastic, and it proved that he didn't need to change anything, and that's why he's in the hot seat and not them. So United Resurgent, did you similar thoughts to the rest of us, I suppose?
Yeah, so for me, actually, when I first saw it, I thought it wasn't a pen. And then I saw the replay, and his arm is probably a little bit further away from his side than it needs to be. And while it's a soft penalty, I did think it was a legitimate penalty when I saw the replay. So they equalize. Obviously, we started off with a great goal. They equalize, and they go ahead on that goal. I want to say that was Vin talked about Maguire and Lindelof and Fred and a couple of others, but for me, the thing that stood out was Aaron Wan-Bissaka jogging back from their half and just not making an effort to close down. And he basically switched off, and it cost us. I think if he gets back, then as the right back, he's going to be either in position himself, or his position will enable Lindelof to be in a better position. So I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka also has to take some share of blame for the goal. They go ahead, and I'm thinking, here we go again in a semifinal. And I think a lot of the players were thinking the same thing. They were in the same boat where they were wondering, oh God, it's happening again. And then they played that way for the rest of the half. And we get in at halftime, and whatever Ollie told them, it clearly got them going again, got them believing. And then once we equalized, we never looked back. It was goal after goal after goal, and it was the highest manifestation of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's kind of Sir Alex Ferguson tribute act, I thought. He's in every way he tries to be like Sir Alex. He's more of a man manager than a tactician. He kind of tries to cajole players, bring them around. He's focuses on character when he's doing his recruitment, primarily British transfer policy. He does managing. He leaves the coaches to do the coaching. Kind of in every way, he tries to be Sir Alex Ferguson-esque. And I thought winning 6-2 against Roma in the Europa League instead of 7-1 against them in the Champions League kind of is a manifestation of that bargain brand Sir Alex Ferguson uh, aesthetic that Ollie seems to be going for. And again, that's not intended as an insult towards Ollie. You guys know I love the manager, and I think Sir Alex Ferguson being the greatest of all time, if you're a bargain version of him, you could still win multiple Premier League titles and be considered one of the all-time greats on your own in 20 years. So it's not an insult towards Ollie. It was just that's kind of how he seems to approach being the United boss. And I really thought yesterday was the culmination of that. And hopefully from here we can go on and lift the trophy, because as Vin said, I thought that put a foot and a half in the semifinal for us, or sorry, in the final for us. And now I'm just praying and hoping that we face Villarreal and not Arsenal in the final, because Mikel Arteta seems to have Ollie's number, and I would rather not go through that again.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dan, one question for you and for the rest of you as well. Who is your man of the match? Who do you think, as well, sort of who are the best sort of performers across the 90 minutes?
How do you choose between those two? Honestly, every one of them was brilliant. I think that was easily the best game Dennis Cavani's ever played for us. Probably one of Bruno's best performances as well in a big game.
I take your point, Dan, but Cavani's had a lot of good games. When he came off the bench and turned it around at Southampton, pretty much single-handedly. There's been a lot of good performances, so I think it's a little bit, just saying he's clearly his best game is probably a little bit hyperbolic.
Spurs of late.
Okay, maybe not necessarily his best game, and I may have some recency bias. I will give you that, to be fair.
Don't
But
get me wrong, he was fantastic. 2 goals, 2 assists. He played a great game, but I'm just saying there's been a lot of other ones at this level. It's not like he's done nothing or he's been kind of average-ish for 6 months and then all of a sudden he showed up. He's done things like this before for us.
yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Take your point. That was probably some poor wording on my part. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be between Cavani and Bruno, and with Pogba just behind. But to make me choose between, those two, it's a bit harsh, Reece, mate. Don't make me do that.
Yeah, right. Personally, I'm going to have to go with Cavani. I do think it probably was his best performance as well, because I don't think he's got 2 goals and 2 assists before, has he?
I don't think so.
No, so yeah, he
Was
really
Bruno the same, 2 and 2?
contributed. Huh?
Was Bruno the same, 2 goals, 2 assists as well?
Yeah. But I'd still give it to Cavani, to be honest, because I thought his overall game was really good. But yeah, Vin, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm sure they impressed you.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give it to Bruno. I'm gonna give it to Bruno Fernandes. Simply because he's not had a great run of games of late. You've seen the Premier League, he hasn't been firing as much as he used to.
He scored 1 in 10, and it was a penalty, I believe.
Exactly.
Before
Yeah, it was a
last night.
penalty. And so, like, from open play, he hasn't been able to score. He has been able to give an assist here and there. But on the whole, I mean, he hasn't been able to perform consistently in the Premier League, maybe because of the fact that he's playing too many fixtures, or could be the fact that he's been playing 90 minutes almost every other game. But so it was great to see him back on the score sheet, to be playing freely like he normally does. And yeah, just for that, I think Bruno Fernandes was my man of the match.
Really shows Bruno's benchmark, doesn't it? The fact that in recent games, he's definitely been contributing. Maybe it was like a pre-assist. I hate that word, but a pre-assist, or he's like a direct contribution to a goal, but he hasn't quite got the assist or the goal. He's still been doing that in recent weeks, but the fact he hasn't scored or got any assists on the board, and we're sitting here agreeing, saying it's not sort of his standard, shows the benchmark that he set for himself, because he's coming to the Premier League. And he's been one of, if not the best player in the Premier League.
This was a classic Bruno Fernandes performance if you look at it.
Yeah, 100%. I thought most players really were fantastic, but I think those 3 or 4 that you mentioned, they probably have to be the main contenders for man of the match. So, United decision, who would you agree to personally?
So I thought it was a tough decision between Cavani, Bruno, and Pogba, as you guys were saying. I thought Cavani did miss 2 pretty simple chances. The one towards the end of the first half where their defender tried to pass the ball across his own box, and then Cavani intercepted it, and he fired it basically off the keeper twice. I thought that was really poor. And then in the second half, there was a chance where Luke Shaw cut it back for him, and he probably should have scored there as well. And he put it kind of twice the height of the goal over. So I think that.
And already tried a bicycle kick as well.
Yeah, that one he's offside. So I don't think it was.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was. So I wasn't as concerned about that one. But and we've talked about this before. Every great striker misses chances. It's not an indictment of Edinson Cavani that he missed those. If you look at Aguero over the last 10 years, or Robin van Persie when he was playing for us, or Ruud van Nistelrooy, these players that score 20, 30 goals a season will also miss 10, 20 but big chances every year. He's not Timo Werner. It's not meant to be a criticism, but at the same time, he did miss those 2 chances. So not him. And then it's kind of tough between the other 2, because in the first half, I thought Bruno was relatively not at his best in terms of his passing at times. But Paul Pogba gave away a penalty, so it's close between them. But I think I'll go with Pogba, just because that penalty, you can't keep your arm completely at your side. And while it was a little bit too far out, in my opinion, I don't think 6 inches of hand placement should take away the man of the match award from him. So I thought Pogba probably had the most consistent game from start to finish. You did talk about how most players had an excellent game, Reese. The one that really concerned me, and this is now 2 games in a row for him. We didn't talk about this because we didn't pod after the Leeds game, but I thought Scott McTominay had an absolute disaster class of a performance at times yesterday, and I didn't think he was good against Leeds either. It's tough because I don't like the Pogba Fred pivot. and Matthew's legs are clearly gone, so I think we're going to have to pick McTominay against Liverpool, but his form is tailing off right now at the worst possible time.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't think it was that bad. I mean, he's really important in these big games, especially because he can just sort of break up the play. But yeah, his chance creation, I would say, is probably really limited, even more limited than Fred, because Fred, at least every now and again, threads a through ball or, gets an assist. But you don't really see that from McTominay, and when he tries it, it never seems to come off. But then again, he does get the odd goal as well, which is a strength which Fred doesn't do.
Yeah, he's up to 7 goals on the season now, and he doesn't take those ridiculous shots every match like Fred does. So I appreciate Scott McTominay. He's one of my favorite players because of how hardworking he is. But at the same time, it's a little bit concerning that we're going into the kind of the business end of the season. Probably a cup final now is going to be the most important game we play, and we don't really have a solid defensive midfielder in form at the moment. And it's a concern moving forward, and definitely something that needs to be looked at in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that he was, I mean, he could have done better in the first half, I felt. So I agree with the Sergeant on that. But I think the second half, he became better. You could see that he was being more sort of, he was controlling the ball better in the midfield in the second half. But again, yeah, he was a bit sloppy in the first half. I agree with that. But I think he also had an opportunity in the second half. He had a shot at goal, I feel. I think he just missed it by a few inches. But yeah, so he had a shot. He could have hit that.
Was it also Scott McTominay? I can't remember this. I might be wrong. Who had that? We were talking about it in the Discord when we were watching the match, where he had the shot that was a cross, and we couldn't decide if it was a shot or a cross. He should have scored that.
He should have scored there, yeah. And I think he also had another shot at the edge of the box. I think later on was it before or after the chance? I'm not sure. But yeah, there were a couple of chances that he had in the second half. So I mean, all in all, yes, he could have done better. But yeah, I mean, given he's got a really good work rate, he's always physical, he's always hardworking. Yeah, I think he should be fine.
The more concerning thing for me, though, than his work rate or anything like that, or even the fact that he wasn't creating chances himself, because we don't really expect that from McTominay. It was more the fact that if you look at it when he was engaging in duels or when he was being pressed on the ball, his footwork is usually very clean. And yesterday you could see at times that the ball was getting stuck between his legs, under his feet. When he was kind of going into a challenge, the opposition was able to get around him a little bit more easily. It just felt like yesterday we saw Scott McTominay from Mourinho's era rather than Scott McTominay from Ollie's era. And I'm hoping that flashback ends really quickly.
Fair enough. So obviously there's been sort of a curse with semi-finals under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, really. Do you guys think that's over now? Vin, what do you think? Are you worried at all going into the second leg?
No. I think the curse has been broken. The jinx is done. I can't see Roma turning a 4-0 deficit because they have to score 4 goals in the second leg and keep a clean sheet against us, which I don't see happening. I see even if they might win the game itself, maybe 1-0, 2-0, but overall I don't see them overcoming a 4-0 deficit, simply because of the fact that this is not the Roma of 3 or 4 years ago that overturned the deficit against Barcelona at home. It's not the same team. You don't have the likes of Totti, you don't have the likes of Minolas, you don't have the likes of Pellegrini hasn't been in great form. Dzeko, while he's had a decent season, has not been the amazing Dzeko that he was 4 years ago. So just for that reason, this is a completely different Roma team under a completely different manager. And for that reason, I don't see them overcoming the deficit.
Yeah. And Dan, do you think that sort of shows how far we've come, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that we've had this trouble with semi-finals and now it looks like we have sort of overcome it?
Well, look, I'm an anxious bloke, mate. Coming up to the second leg, I will still be nervous because however unlikely it is, there's always a possibility. And because of the game against Barcelona and the Peter Drury commentary, Roma have risen from their ruins, which is one of the best pieces of commentary ever, by the way. Yeah, I mean it's brilliant. I mean we're realistically we are in the final, but considering the fact that it's just one, I think we have to kick on now, and we have to keep doing it again and again and again, year after year after year. We have to push on. We have to challenge City properly. We have to be getting into these these League Cups and these FA Cup finals. It's what Manchester United does. So of course it's brilliant, that we've taken the next step, but we need to keep doing it now, again and again and again. But obviously, I'm absolutely over the moon that we've sort of broken this semi-final curse. But whether it's a permanent thing remains to be seen. But we'll see.
It's done. I mean, let's be honest. We can't conspire to throw this away at this point. We'd have to put in a performance that was kind of worse than the Spurs one to even give them a chance. And they're not as good as Tottenham are. They're kind of in the same position in their respective leagues, but Spurs have two world-class players. Roma don't. So we would have to put in a performance that would make the Spurs match look good by comparison to somehow screw this up. So I'm not worried. The Italian media is already reporting that Paulo Fonseca, the manager, is going to lose his job, and probably Maurizio Sarri is going to take over in the summer. So it looks like even Roma have acknowledged this is done. Now the question is more about how Oli manages the squad in what is essentially 6 meaningless matches between, not really, I guess not meaningless in the sense that we're playing Liverpool, it's the big rivals, right? But essentially, as far as our league positioning, as far as our goals for the end of the season, 6 meaningless matches ahead of a cup final. It's kind of a big warm-up period now, and hopefully the fans will be able to understand that and not get upset with every little bit of team selection or every poor performance. It doesn't matter at this point, and that's the reality of the situation. I think one more win locks in top 4 for us, and we've got 5 matches to play. So it's just not the Premier League matches don't matter. We're not going to lose 4-0 to Roma. So the semi-final second leg doesn't particularly matter. Now it's all about seeing if we can go ahead and kind of prep for that final. And maybe, who knows? I personally think Arsenal will overturn the deficit and make it to the final. But the number 7 curse has been broken this season. The semi-final curse has been broken this season. Maybe the Arsenal curse can be broken too.
Love that.
3 times the charm. I mean, just to add to the surgeon's point, the only way that we can self-destruct the semi-final leg is we play a 3-5-2 with Matic and McTominay in that midfield pivot, just like we did against Leipzig. That's the only way that we can self-destruct this, because otherwise I don't see anything happening.
Even that wouldn't do it. You'd have to do something even more ridiculous, like play Hannibal Mabry making his debut in a semi-final, and then play him out of position.
May not be that bad.
Like, you would have to be suicidal mismanagement to throw this away.
Yeah, definitely. So
either that or maybe food poisoning for the entire first team and we have to play the under 23s. That would be the other way, but it's just realistically not possible.
We've got some great under 23 players.
Flashback the Champions League final flashback the Champions League final of 2009, 2010 at Rome. Food poisoning, bad food, bad hotels, one of the reasons why we lost, by the way.
So that is one thing to keep in mind. There is no chance that the second leg, United's players are going to get a full night's rest. Roma fans will set off flares outside the hotel, pull the fire alarm, things like that, at the best of times. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has really made them upset, both from the performance of us destroying them, and also by saying that he didn't know anything about Roma. What he really meant at the time was, I don't know a lot about how they play because I haven't been able to scout them. But what they understood to mean, he's saying they're a small club. So sadly,
I think a few days later, he did sort of clear that up a few days later, but they're not going to listen to that.
No. So just briefly, obviously, we'll talk about this close to the time. How would you sort of approach the second leg then? Do you think it's just a sort of rest everyone, or would you still sort of be cautious? Because I think that's what Ollie's going to do, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yes, definitely you can rest some players, but you still have to be professional and show some kind of respect, don't you? I mean, the Premier. I mean, we're in such a strong position now. In the Premier League and both going into the second leg as well. Realistically, we can actually afford to rest players in both games. But I think, how heavily the deficit is now, I think that we can go strong against Liverpool at the weekend as well. Providing in midweek we can rest some of those players as well. We're in such a good position. So you have a good mix, I'd say. I mean, you definitely rest play. You're definitely not going to play Cavani for a third game in a row. But maybe give Mason a go up top. Maybe consider bringing Ahmad on for the second half. You can. I think Ollie's can afford to be experimental, but obviously keep it professional. Just in case.
Having seen the Sociedad second leg where we were 4-0 up and Ollie played essentially the entire first 11, I'm fully expecting him to play the strongest team next week, but I completely disagree with that, as I did against Sociedad. My thinking is you can rotate in the players who are close to first team level. Like you can play Alex Telles instead of Luke Shaw. You can play Donny van de Beek instead of Bruno Fernandes. Probably could play Nemanja Matic potentially. Players like that, Eric Bailly could come in. You can bring in kind of the fringe first team players. It's not the kind of game where you want to bring in Brandon Williams and Ahmad, I don't think. Maybe Ahmad just to give him some minutes, but you can't really like have wholesale changes where you're throwing in the kids. But I do think that there is room for the kind of tangential first team members, but I don't expect it. I think we're going to see damn near the strongest team.
Yeah, fair enough. And in terms of, well, obviously we know Cavani had an absolutely sensational game, as we were mentioning. There's been sort of news from some pretty reliable sources that he might actually be staying now, and he's made his decision. So, Dan, do you believe that? Do you think he will stay?
Oh, listen, mate. I would love him to stay. I at him every other day on Twitter, begging him to stay. He's been so good. What he brings to the club. I mean, I think we've been starved of a proper number 9 for the longest time, and now we've got a proper number 9. It's like it's the best thing ever. It's like a baby seeing a fucking toy for the first time. Do you know what I mean? It's so good. And what? And it's not just obviously his goals that he brings as well. He's really good at linking up players. We saw last night, and obviously we've spoken about it at length on this podcast. But what he brings to the squad as well, and how he's he's integrating into the squad, and how he's showing Mason and some of the younger lads as well. And I think he's so good. And as well as that, obviously with sort of Cavani sort of tied down for a further year, it gives us the option to then strengthen other areas of the squad rather than getting into this ridiculous battle for Haaland, by the way. So my answer to that is I don't know. I mean, I want to trust the source, obviously, and you guys reckon he's good, but personally I've never heard of him. So I think until we see it from sort of British sources sort of saying the same sort of message is when it starts to be a bit more concrete for me anyway, personally. So I would love him to stay. I really would. I think he's brilliant, mate.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Vin, do you sort of believe it? Do you have any idea if it's correct or not?
Yeah, so Moises Lorenz of ESPN has come out with the news that Cavani has decided to stay at Manchester United for the next season. Again, like Dan said, we'd like to wait on from reliable sources like Fabrizio and Jonathan Schrager to sort of confirm that news. Happens, then we can start to believe. But I mean, Moises Lorenz has proven to be somewhat reliable, especially when it comes to Spanish and Portuguese football. Not so sure about English, so that's the reason there's a bit of skepticalness to the rumors. But if it's true, I couldn't be happier. I mean, like Dan said, we've missed a proper number 9 for a long time. And I think the last number 9 whom we thought would be a great fit was Falcao, really. That's whom we thought was going to be like, oh, what an amazing signing he's going to be. But obviously that's not how it worked out. So to see Cavani having that number 7 shirt, that curse has been broken, we could say. And to see him performing so well, and obviously I can understand where he's coming from. The fact that he's missing his family and the experiences with the FA that he's had recently. But as Solskjaer said, when fans come back to the stadium, it's going to be a whole different experience. So even 35,000 fans chanting his name, singing songs about him, it's going to be a whole completely different experience, and he's going to enjoy it really. And all of us just want him to experience that at least once. The moment he experiences that once, I am pretty convinced that he will want to stay at the club. So I hope that the rumor, the report is true. And yeah, just please stay, Eddie.
What I did see today, sorry, this is a bit unrelated, but what I did see today is that the Fulham game has not actually been scheduled yet, and they're considering scheduling it for the 17th. And it's from the 17th that fans allowed back in Premier League stadiums, I believe. So
That's
if
correct.
It's not,
the Premier League is trying to do the scheduling so that every team can have at least one home fixture with fans
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah, so the Old Trafford faithful singing "Give it, give it, give it" to Eddie Cavani, it's going to want to make you stay. So let's hope that happens.
Yeah, so just on Cavani myself, I thought that he was a massive upgrade for us when we signed him. There's a tweet that I retweeted from me from January 2020 when we were looking at signing a Gallo, where I said, if we can get Cavani instead, I would love that. And then obviously we signed him in the summer window, and he's been a fantastic success for us. You have to manage his injuries because he is 34 years old, but other than that, he's still a top class striker, and we're lucky to have him. Yeah, I think he's the best striker we've had since probably Zlatan maybe counts, but I think he's better than Lukaku. Personally, I like him better than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So for me, he's the best striker since Robin van Persie. And as a free signing, that's all you can ask for. So I'm very happy that he's looking to be staying at the club, and obviously that lets us prioritize our summer signings away from a striker. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I've been pushing for a striker signing for the last couple of weeks, as it looked like Cavani's going to be leaving. But if he's staying, then you can put those funds towards Jadon Sancho. And I think pretty much every defense in the Premier League, if they look at maybe say Pogba, Sancho, Bruno, Rashford, and Cavani coming at them, they're going to shit themselves. They're going to absolutely shit themselves. If no team will be able to play with white shorts in the Premier League ever again against Manchester United. So I think it's going to be absolutely essential if he's able to sign and keep our attack at the level that it is and keep it improving going forward.
Yeah, you've put that absolutely excellently there. So we've all had our say on everything. So now we're going to move it on to Liverpool. Okay, so moving it on to the Liverpool preview. Absolutely massive game yet again on Sunday. So in terms of that, Dan, what were your thoughts on it? Excited?
I am excited. Manchester United Liverpool is always a massive game, but it almost always never lives up to the hype, does it? Unfortunately, but as I mentioned before, I think we're going into it in a really strong position. To be fair, considering the result we got yesterday, I think we can go really, really strong. We can kill them off, and I mean, Klopp seems to think that they're going to lose anyway, going from his comments the other day. So yeah, really excited, really, really up for it. Actually, I think we've been 5 times better than they have been this season, to be honest. And we, given some of their performances, I think we should win this game. And that's the first time I've been able to say that with confidence, for a long time in terms of Manchester United Liverpool. So, I feel good. I feel confident going into this game.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Vinju, are you really confident as well?
Yeah, sorry, I was just fixing on my starting 11, in my opinion. But anyways, we'll get to that later. Yeah, Manchester United Liverpool. It's a game which doesn't really need much motivation. The history of the game itself should be enough motivation for the players. Many might argue that Liverpool have had an entire week off, whereas Manchester United are only going to have a couple of days. But the adrenaline of the fixture itself, I think, should be enough for the players to carry through, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen in the past when Manchester United have had only a short turnaround of a couple of days, we've still managed to win and get results with pretty strong performances. So, and even though it's Liverpool, they're still a tough team. They're on the slump, but they've still got a very good management club. They've got some very good players. So yeah, we still have to give them a little bit amount of respect, not too much, just a little bit, and then demolish them ultimately. So yeah, it's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good game. Obviously, last time was a 0-0. It was a drab draw, but considering it was at Anfield, we've historically never been good over there. I think it was a decent result. But yeah, now like Dan said, we are performing really well. Liverpool aren't so much. They've drawn their last 2 games. I mean, the fact that they drew to Newcastle at home and conceded a goal in the 90th minute uh, consecutively. They did that against Leeds as well. So uh, that should be good motivation for our players. The fact that they are vulnerable, they're not at their best. So let's capitalize and give a thumping performance.
Yeah, 100% United resurgent. You agree with all of that?
Yeah, basically they've won one of their last 5 matches, but it's a big game, and we know Ollie likes to be a little bit more cautious in big games. I fully expect to see the McFred combination out there. I fully expect to see a low-scoring game, but they're in a position where we can win this, and if we win it, I think we'll end their top 4 hopes this weekend, more or less. Not
Yeah.
mathematically, but looking at the league table, Leicester play Sheffield United, and they're already 8 points clear of Liverpool, so they could go to 11 if we win. Chelsea are 4 points clear, but they play Fulham. They'll win that. So being 7 points behind with 4 matches to play would be over, I think, for Liverpool. So it would be great to put them in the Europa League. We would graduate out of it by winning the trophy, and they can graduate back into it. Normal service being resumed from the late Ferguson years, and I'm here for it.
One thing that
Less of Southampton, by the way. Not Sheffield. It's Spurs play Sheffield.
No, I'm sorry, that's right.
Finn mentioned the motivation for the game, Liverpool United being enough. But one thing that we forgot was the fact that if we lose this weekend and City win, then City win the title, which is inevitably going to happen anyway. But to delay that a bit, would be, good for everyone, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be nice to put it off, especially because I think next week City have Chelsea, who just beat them in the FA Cup. So it's possible to get put off another week then, because Chelsea would probably, I think, get a point at least out of that. And if you can put it back into the last couple of matches, then and kind of stay within 7 to 10 points of them, then that gives you a better platform for next season. So hopefully we can delay handing over the title, or hopefully we can delay them winning the title. Although the quicker they win it, the less time Liverpool have been reigning champions. So there is that benefit.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, let's be honest.
Even when they win, Liverpool lose this year. It's great to see.
I mean, I agree. But ultimately, I mean, let's be honest. That pipe dream of us getting back in the title race, obviously, it's not going to happen because the gap is too far, and there are too many less games for us to sort of bridge the gap even remotely.
Something to keep an eye on, though. I agree with you that the dream of first place was always out of hand. But if Leicester win and we go ahead and lose, then they'd only be 2 points behind us, which is very concerning. So second and third is heating up as a little bit of a battle. So that's something to keep an eye on. Although I ultimately think we will close it out. I think Leicester will.
Yeah, we will close it out. Yeah. I mean, our ultimate aim should really now be to close the gap to City as much as you can. Get the points gap down to single digits, keep it around maybe 7, 8 points even. I mean, that should be all right, considering the fact that we were 33 points bridged from the champions last season. So keeping that in mind, that's massive progress, and ultimately that's what we should be looking at in these 5 games
now. Yeah, I mean, if we go down, we're not going to go down without a fight, right? I mean, was it 2017 or 2018? I think we lost to West Brom and handed City the title. We just don't want to have something like that happen.
Although, if City do manage to draw or lose this weekend, don't be surprised if the dogs come back again.
Yeah.
I think the ones last week lasted about 3 days, and then we drew with Leeds.
So United Resurgent was talking a few minutes ago about he thinks it's going to be a low-scoring game. Do you guys agree? And Vin, do you think we've sort of moved past that sort of 0-0 FC sort of thing, where against the big 6 teams we just kept drawing 0-0 and not performing?
Yeah, I mean, we did see in the first half of the season that against most of the big 6 teams that we were sort of being a bit conservative and settling in for the draw against Liverpool, against Man City. Yes, we had the drubbing against Spurs, and then we had the embarrassing defeat against Arsenal. But if you look at Chelsea, City, and Liverpool, we were defensively very solid, but we weren't that much threatening going forward. I feel yes, we had our chances, we should have capitalized on it, but then overall, if you look at it, maybe we could have been a bit more adventurous going forward. I mean, in terms of team selection, I think you could expect more or less the same team that we fielded against Liverpool at Anfield. But I think this time, in terms of tactics, in terms of plays, I think Ollie would want us to be a bit more aggressive, knowing the fact that Liverpool's defense isn't at its best, and you'd want to capitalize on it as much as possible. For all the good work that Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson have been doing, and they've off late in the recent past couple of games have been pretty all right. It's the centre backs that is their sort of Achilles heel, if you think about it, because I think it's Nat Phillips and Kabak at this point, who are their centre back, who's the main centre back pairing, and they aren't the most confident of centre backs if we really have to think about it. Yes, they've had a couple of decent performances of late in the past 5 games, but when you're playing against Man United in a fixture like that, a team which is in pretty amazing form if you think about it in the league, you're going to have to be at your absolute best. And we saw it in the FA Cup game against Liverpool at Old Trafford, the way their centre backs faltered for 2 of their goals, for 2 of our goals. So that's again going to be the key people to target for this game. And as always, gotta keep Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson quiet.
Yeah, that's the key to shutting down Liverpool entirely, isn't it? You just have to keep those wing backs quiet. And
absolutely.
I say wing backs. They do play with 4 at the backs. It's technically full backs, but the way they ended up playing, they effectively play as wing backs, and they're the main outlet of creation. I mean, we joke around about it a lot, but ultimately, in a way, Jurgen Klopp has perfected David Moyes' 81 crosses in a match technique from against Fulham, and he's just turned it into he's just got better players to do that with, and it's kind of won them the Champions League and a league title because they've got just basically 2 players out wide, putting it in the half spaces between the fullback and the center back for the attackers to get on the end of. And it's a good tactic for them, but hopefully we'll be primed and ready for it and able to shut them down. The good thing about playing Liverpool after a short break rather than another team is that Liverpool's tactics are very clear from match to match. So it's not as though we have to guess what they're going to do. If we were playing another team, maybe say Spurs right now under Ryan Mason, or if you were playing Man City, you don't know if the opposition is going to set up with a 4 or a 3. Are they going to come out attacking defensively, false 9, 4-2-3-1? What's it going to be? With Liverpool, what the tactical setup is going to be and how they're going to play. So that should make it easier for us to prepare in the short time that we have.
Yeah, I mean, the boys hit the nail on the head. You know what I mean? Their main attacking threat does come from their fullbacks, and we like to joke around about it and say they can't defend, especially Trent Alexander-Arnold. But at the end of the day, they are 2 fantastic fullbacks, and they create a wealth of chances.
I know that Josh isn't on right now, but I just want to go ahead and make a note of it. Trent Alexander-Arnold can't defend. Let's just be very clear about that. He's basically a winger playing as a right back, kind of like Antonio Valencia, except without the defensive talent.
And obviously we haven't been the best on crosses this season. I.e. the Everton game, the long ball into the box, and I think back to the Southampton game a lot, because when we we conceded in the 96th minute, I think that was from a corner as well, and especially from the crosses into the box, you sort of Aaron Wan-Bissaka tends to get caught out of position quite a lot. So but I've as I said, I've not really got much to say on that. The boys hit the nail on the head. You shut the wing backs down, you shut Liverpool down. And I think we should be scoring against that back line. We should. I think, we've got more than enough attacking talent to penetrate that defence. And we all know how Trent Alexander-Arnold feels about Rashford. And I can't wait to see him put him on his ass again. So.
Yeah, and I think the way they really push the fullbacks forward, and if Rashford can exploit that, especially against the likes of Kabak, Phillips, because they've got so many injuries at the back, I think it could be really, really effective. Cavani as well. He's going to have a brilliant chance of scoring. Greenwood will probably play. He's on great form. Honestly, personally, I can't see us losing this. Maybe we'll get a draw, but I think I think we'll win. Would you agree with that, Vin?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that's been said. Yeah, I think it should. The team selection is going to be a bit. I don't know. It's a bit tricky considering you don't want to leave out. I mean, everyone's pretty much in pretty good form, so leaving out anyone might be a bit unfair. So it's going to be a pretty good dilemma to have selecting. I mean, I think the back five is kind of sorted. I think everyone would agree on the same back five, but it's the midfield two and the forwards that would have to be. It's going to be a good sort of a good dilemma to have in terms of selecting them.
Honestly, I would say the back seven is sorted. There's no way he doesn't play McFred in this match.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way. It's going to
Actually,
be
yeah.
Henderson, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Luke Shaw, McTominay, Fred, and then
McTominay, Fred.
and Bruno Fernandes at number 10. And we can debate the other three positions,
We
basically.
can debate.
It's
Yeah,
just
Those eight are kind of fixed in place.
Yeah. So yeah. Do we get to the starting 11 now?
Yeah, go for it. Who would you pick, Vin?
Right. So, like Certain said, I've got the same back seven as I think I've almost pretty much had. So Henderson, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. Fred McTominay obviously in that pivot. Fernandes in that 10. Left wing, I'm gonna go with Marcus Rashford. I'm gonna put Pogba on the right, and up front, I'm actually gonna put. Actually, I'm gonna change my mind. Pogba on the left, Greenwood on the right, and Cavani up top.
That is exactly the same as my 11. I'm resting Marcus Rashford as well.
Yeah.
I think, well, he had one great performance in the last couple of weeks. He has looked like he's carrying a knock the rest of the time. And I think anytime you can give him some rest, you do. I know Liverpool is a big match, but I think Pogba and Greenwood are just in better form. And if we're picking the best 11, then I think he doesn't get into it right now.
Yeah, he didn't have a great game yesterday either. I mean, he didn't look
Yeah,
he
I
didn't
think
look
he was probably
spectacular. He's kind of average, if I'm being honest.
He's injured. I mean, it's clear that he's injured.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I feel for
He's
him that
injured,
playing
right?
through it.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, these games don't mean a lot. I mean, I know the rivalry aspect of it matters, but in terms of us, we're not trying to secure Champions League football for next season. That's pretty much done already. And so from that perspective, it's not a huge deal if he rests. And so for me, you kind of give him the time that he needs ahead of the Europa League final.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same here. I mean, that's the reason why I sort of took Rashford out and I put Greenwood in because Greenwood sort of came on as a substitute and he got a goal. So all the more reason why he deserves to start on the right. Pogba has been pretty good on the left as a wide creator, so you can't leave him out. And Cavani as well, he's in a rich vein of form. So all the more reason why you definitely can't leave him out, especially against Liverpool centre backs.
I will say, while I agree with you on the team selection, I fully expect what Ollie will go with will be the exact same team as Roma, except with the keeper switched. It'll be Henderson in goal, but the same 10 outfielders. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will rest Marcus Rashford under any circumstances.
Well, starting 11 is relatively the same. Apart from I am in an hour in about playing Eddie or playing Greenwood in the 9. I think you can get away with playing Eddie, considering that he's probably definitely going to be rested in the week anyway. But I'd probably go Pogba on the left, give Rashford a rest, as much rest as you can give him, as you said. I would love to see Greenwood in the 9, but I can definitely see him being Alex Cavani, and you can definitely see why, because he's getting at them. He's getting at those centre halves all day, and I wouldn't mind seeing Dan James on the right just to track the runners. I'd be happy with both of the lineups you said, or the one that I've just mentioned there. To be fair, I think we're going to do all right on Sunday.
It's the beauty of where the club is at the moment that
Yeah.
there aren't really a lot of bad 11s that can be picked. I know people on Twitter will complain about the 11, and that I don't think you can get around that. I think there's 50% of the fan base who ultimately are pathologically unhappy in their lives and will take it out on United, and they're kind of the United stand, the AFTV kind of fan, and there's nothing that can be done to make them happy. If we win the league, they'll just say that we didn't go unbeaten. If we go unbeaten, they'll say that we didn't win all 38 matches. If we win all 38 matches, we didn't play a good enough football. So I think ultimately there's 50% of the people you just can't please, and the club and the fans have to write them off as irreconcilable, irredeemable assholes, and then take the rest of the other 50% and try to do the best we can for them.
As you said, it's so indicative of where we are at a club now, considering last season, perhaps the season before, you sort of knew the 11 that would play every week, and if it didn't, you'd be sitting there shitting yourself thinking, fuck. But considering the squad depth that we have, and we're probably going to add to in the summer as well, it just shows Ollie's progress really, and how we're getting on as a club.
I remember when Ollie first came in, the big question ahead of the match against Cardiff on his debut was, is he going to pick Phil Jones or Chris Smalling to partner Victor Lindelof? We've come a long way since then. I know that there was a group of people who like to say that Harry Maguire is just Chris Smalling, but white. But I really don't see that. They're completely different levels of player, as we saw yesterday against Roma. And I'm just so glad that we've managed to develop the squad to this position.
Chris Smalling hasn't played each and every game since he started for Man United, unlike Harry Maguire. So that's the biggest point of difference right there. And obviously, like you said, regarding
also,
the fan
Maguire
base on
is
Twitter,
insanely good on the ball. He's one of the best distributors
exactly.
center back of any player in the world. And then Chris Smalling is awful on the ball and has the first touch of a rhinoceros.
We saw that yesterday. I mean, it was disastrous though. But yeah, I mean, like you said, regarding the fans, obviously there's going to be a certain section who are going to critique the fact that he's going to go for McTominay and Fred in that midfield. There's obviously going to be calls for, McTominay is shit, Fred is shit, the two of them it's too static. Two defensive midfielders playing together, really, which is not the case for the umpteenth time. They're all going to criticize, why is Maguire and Lindelof playing? Give Bailly a chance or give Twanzebe a chance. I mean, you got to realize, at the end of it, it is still Liverpool. At the end of it, we're not playing freaking Barnsley. I mean, you're playing Liverpool. For God's sakes, you got to play your best players, even if the fixture doesn't really have insane consequences. So you got to play your best 11. You got to respect the history of the rivalry, the opposition, the emotions. Respect that. Play the best team, and go out and win. Simple. So stop cribbing about the playing 11. There's a reason why it's been picked. It's because it's worked before. And on the basis of that, the players are ready and they're willing to go for it. So just calm down, back the team, and enjoy the game.
I mean, there's always going to be fans like that, regardless of what you do, isn't there? But, I think when Ollie does lift that first trophy, I think it's going to calm a lot of people down. And it's just going to be a bit of a message, as Ollie said himself, shut up you, I know what I'm doing. When he picks up that first bit of silverware, I think that'll improve a lot. I mean, it might not. That's just my opinion anyway. But you can't please everyone, can you, really?
I've seen a lot of people already. I as you guys know, I'm pretty into analytics. I've already seen some of analytics Twitter saying, "Oh well, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer winning the Europa League really just shows his level." And it's like, shut up! You've gotten to the point where it started out as Ole's going to get us relegated, then Ole won't get us in the top four, then Ole won't get us closer to the title. Ole won't win a trophy. I mean, it just seems like at every turn they make another prediction and it's wrong, and yet for some reason these people can't learn from it. And sometimes they need to realize they've had their chance. Ultimately, it's kind of like a political party that was in charge. They were in government in the country. It doesn't matter which one. And they basically had their time under Mourinho and Louis van Gaal, and they accomplished absolutely nothing. They failed. They were kicked out in the next election. And then a new party came in and they're starting to complain that the new government isn't doing things correctly. Well, you've had your chance. The voters picked this party, and now we're going to see what they can do. And that's the situation here, where the fans in the stadium, the owners, Ed Woodward, to his credit a little bit, all of these people have said, we're going to back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and see what he can do. And at this point, if you want the success of the club and not just of your own faction, you have to get behind that. And that's it's as simple as that.
Bang on. The goalposts are moved at every opportunity for him because people don't want to admit they were wrong. Everyone, as you said, everyone's Ollie's going to get us relegated. We're going to get absolutely nowhere. And now we are getting somewhere. They just invent whole new ways to criticize him.
Yeah, right. So just getting back to the lineup quickly, I just had one tiny question, which I think Dan mentioned. Would you be surprised, happy, or disappointed to see Dan James on the left with Pogba on the right? Soda?
I wouldn't mind Dan James starting at all. I think he'd be brilliant. He's very, very good at tracking runners, and he'd definitely help shutting down their main attacking threat. So in my 11, I was sort of umming and ahhing about I would start James on the right personally and Pogba on the left. And I think the selection for me was either to put Greenwood or Cavani down the middle. I would love to see James start. His energy is fantastic, and if he can help Aaron Wan-Bissaka, then I'm all for it.
I completely disagree. In my opinion, when you have so Cavani for me is the choice up top. I don't think any of our strikers come close. So then when it comes to the wide positions, I'm looking at Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood. And it's tough to pick two of them, but I went with Greenwood and Pogba. I don't think Dan James comes anywhere close to the picture personally. I would understand the selection, but it would be a very defensive pick in my opinion. There's just no need for it. I mean, Dan James can beat Trent Alexander-Arnold on the left. I don't doubt that because, like I said earlier, Trent can't defend. But I just, to me, well, you've got three better options. Why would you pick Dan James? I know he offers more defensively, but you don't need that. This isn't last year's Liverpool team. They are still Liverpool. We have to respect them. But McFred does that. There's no need for a defensive winger.
Yeah, and I don't think James played against Liverpool in the cup either, did he? It was Greenwood, so we don't necessarily need him. And if he does start, I would say on the right, but I wouldn't start him. No, I mean, as someone who is from Wales, maybe there is a bit of bias, but I don't know personally. I just don't think at the moment he's quite there to be starting in big games like this personally. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to bring up. Okay, so on to predictions then. I'm going to give mine first. Manchester United 2, Liverpool 0. It's going to be an absolute classic. So, Vin, what would you say?
Clean sheet, huh? I'm going to go for Manchester United 2, Liverpool 1.
Okay, interesting.
They'll score. I just have a nagging feeling they'll score some way or the other.
What would you say, Dan?
I'm going 3-1 United. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet against that forward line, but I think we'll definitely get up their back line. I'm going to predict a Pogba goal and 2 more for Cavani.
Good way to celebrate his new contract if it's announced by then. And lastly, United.
Well, you guys know that I'm the pessimistic one usually when it comes to predictions. I really don't see that changing here. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. I think we used up our quota of entertaining goalfest kind of result in the middle of the week, and it's going to be bookended by a 0-0 on either end.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, given the fact that it's a short turnaround from the Roma game, and I mean, it makes sense that you want to be conserving your energy and just sort of being cautious as to when to sort of play at full throttle, when to sort of cut back down. So I can understand that.
The one thing that makes me think there might be goals in this is that Liverpool have to win to have any chance at top 4.
So they're going to come out at full.
So it's going to be, they're going to leave spaces for us, and that could see us do a little bit better than I'm expecting, but it's in my nature to expect the worst, so I'm going to go with a 0-0.
Fair enough.
Okay. I think we'll end it there then. It's been pretty good, this one, I think. One of our best ones, maybe. We say that every week, so.
Every week.
But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're watching elsewhere, give us a follow. I think that's all. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.